Yeah, it's that coming up from the bottom. Day $1, $0 type shit. The only thing I'm ducking is the graveyard. Really with the shit y'all niggas play hard. I made it to a boss, I'm selling 8 balls. I came up from nothing, I could never take a day off. The only thing I'm ducking is the graveyard. Really with the shit y'all niggas play hard. I made it to a boss, I'm selling 8 balls. I came up from nothing, I could never take a day off. Turn your baby mama crib into a stash spot.
Oh man, and you got the mic turned on time,
Ready to go, bro.
man. You are. It's been a little while, but you're flawless. You just know what the fuck you're doing.
I'm trying.
I'll be honest with you. Not that I'm not always honest with you. Fuck sounds awesome in a mic.
Right? It does.
You almost want to say it more.
It packs a different power, dude. It does.
Definitely does. It's been a little while. I've done some podcasts by myself on just thoughts and getting some content out to the audience and stuff. But I've also got some reach outs of people checking and seeing if we're okay. And as you guys know, full disclosure, we have a business, right? We run Mile High Property Brothers, and we've got agents we've got a ton of agents in Colorado, and we've got agents in like 9 other states so far right now. So we're starting to creep up on some great numbers, and training and building infrastructure and all of that takes priority. So not to make an excuse that like there's not time, but man, that's a lot of times legitimately there's just no time, right? So this is the one thing that has to kind of get sacrificed. We don't get sponsorships for this podcast. We don't seek sponsorships for this podcast. We do this to just pour into everybody and give as much as we can with, the understanding that if there's anything that has to get sacrificed, a lot of times it's podcasts. So we love doing these every week. But if we end up taking like a month hiatus just due to, to workload and the responsibilities we have for other people, man, we have to do so. But appreciate the support, everybody being on here. As of this week, we're going to try to get back on here every single week and be consistent with some good topics.
Yes, sir.
And just giving you guys a good message. So whether you're realtors out there and you've been listening to us for a while, or you're a realtor and you are within our network, if you're not, we'd love to team up with you and help you build your brand and your business. There's a huge pivot in real estate right now, especially for realtors. So if you're looking for something different, and a different way to go about your brand and your business, holler at us, Will_Grimes on Instagram, or Eli Schmidt here.
That's right.
On his Instagram. Throw us a holler. If you're not, you're just an entrepreneur. We talk a lot about that. And we just talk a lot about just open-ended, idealistic stuff as far as betterment and mindset for a lot of things. And today's super great topic. We're going to be talking about self-help. Quote, excuse me, burping up monster. Quote, unquote. Self-help.
Okay.
Somebody was making fun of me because I have this peach monster.
I
don't even want to give the credit to the person that like makes fun, but like I was like, hey man, you ever hear Deion Sanders talk about being the man? Yeah. He's like, no. I'm like, of course someone trying to talk trash doesn't listen to Deion Sanders. And I'm like, well, Deion Sanders says, like if you have to try to be the man, that in itself says you ain't the man, because the man is just the man. So it's like, I'm going to drink whatever the fuck I like, because I guess in my own stupid head, I'm the man.
That's true.
Or even if I wasn't, and I know I'm not, I'm still drinking what I like.
Works, man. That's how it works.
But shout out to Monster. They don't sponsor this, but
they're Deion Sanders. Yeah,
Deion's awesome. But the Ultra Peachy Keen, dude,
0 cal, of course. No sugar.
Got to keep shredded.
So it's like what, 25 cal something.
Yep. So first part of self-help, just like, man, just do what you like. Don't worry about others. Yeah. But we're going to talk about it. And the synopsis of that today is. And shout out to Tosh, just credit, because I got some of the thoughts from some things that he was writing when it came to like, he was talking about leadership, and not Tosh.0, by the way. I got that comment on Instagram one time. No, Brian Sean Tosh.
Yes.
Go check him out on Instagram. Marine Corps Commander.
What's his Instagram handle real quick?
It should be Crooked Butterfly.
Okay, Crooked Butterfly.
Crooked Butterfly. I got to talk to him about that, because I'm not going to, off air, because I don't want to give away why he calls things, why he calls it. Yeah. It's not my place. Yeah. Off air. Okay. But he was talking about leadership and like just just people believing their own bullshit and realizing that like whether you are accomplished at a high level or not, you're accomplished in the way that you went about it, which means it's still opinion based.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's not across the board. And a lot of good stuff. I don't want to also take what he wrote, because he's smarter than me, so I don't want to misspeak for what he was really trying to say. But he was also talking about some self-help in there, and it might have been on one of his podcasts where he mentioned, like in order for like the whole self-help to survive, there has to be something wrong with you as a consumer all the time.
Right.
In order for like self-help stuff to still sell. And I'm like, man, like such a good point. But that's also like across the board with like everything, right? Like there's always got to be a new running shoe.
Yep.
Or a new it's like there's always got to be that in order to survive within whatever lane. And like, I've never thought about it from that side. And it's like, dude, there are a trillion different books out there as far as like self-help and like the whole like 1,000 ways to skin a cat, as far as like all these different things that you could be,
Well, it's all marketing,
you know,
right?
focused on and doing. And
Yeah. You just put it over there. Thank you.
thanks, brother.
It's all marketing, right?
It's just, it comes from an industry though that you might not quite think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in understanding that,
Just like a doctor as a salesman, you would not think that like doctors get paid more for recommending certain prescriptions.
Yes.
But they do.
yes,
But it's like in an industry like you would never think that would happen. So like it's just never been top of mind that like, man, in the self-help world, it's like you're just you're just thinking like people are just putting out what works for them, but because there's so many different things that work for someone, they're just putting it up. But it's like, no, man, there's like the same dude putting out 12,000
yeah.
different like things, and you're like, man,
well,
like,
and
you start splitting hairs.
everything's marketing. Everything's marketing. Period.
It is. So what we're going to talk about today is like, first and foremost, like when I dive into books, I try to read a good amount until like it starts speaking to me or starts giving me some how-tos that are like, that resonate with me.
Actionable items.
Yeah. And then I just pause and then I go try to put those things into action, because I know like from the action is where I'm going to learn shit, not from reading it. I'm going to learn from the action. So like if something's speaking to me or hitting me, I want to do that. And then as I feel like I'm becoming adequate or consistent with that, and it's either working or it's not working, whatever that is, then I dive back in and get some more how to. And I think whether you're reading books or it's audiobook or what, or someone's talking to you, like you've got to figure out basic fundamentals on creating a foundation for quote unquote self-help, as in like, where's your diet? And no, you don't have to be a bodybuilder and count your calories, but like, are you intermittent fasting? Are you keeping track of your calories? Are you mitigating what you're eating and paying attention? Is it clean? Is it good as a body? Is it nourishing? And are you minimizing the junk? Okay. Are you getting proper rest? Are you getting adequate exercise for what you feel or what you know to be adequate? And are the relationships around you healthy? That's a great foundation. Now, we can go layers on relationships. That's a whole different podcast. That's probably a podcast series. But just for basic fundamentals and your foundation, I think those are your core. And if you haven't become adequate in that, reading about the 212th idea someone has that's like splitting hairs on something or just like super micro, it doesn't help.
No.
It's not creating a foundation for you. And I know you're going to speak on this, so I don't want to rob your thought, but you had a great thought before we were doing this was, at some point, you've got to graduate from being told what to do. Like at some point, you've got to be taking enough action in your life where you have self-awareness and you've grown into that and you're assessing your world, your life. And then you start knowing like what your next 212th thing to improve upon yourself isn't coming from a book. It's coming from your circumstances, your life, based off the action that you're putting in. You're like, you no longer need to read a goddamn self-help book or podcast every week. You might go back and touch it every 6 months, maybe once a year. Like, and man, I've been reading meditations. Shout out to Tosh. He recommended that too. Really cool. It's Marcus Aurelius' personal journal. And there's a couple different translations. There's one that was super recommended by a lot of smart dudes. So I grabbed that one.
Yep.
And I like it, man, because I've personally, in my opinion, I've gone far enough. Like, I know what I need to be doing and not doing. I don't need anyone to kick me in the ass. I don't need anyone to tell me to wake up or what time I should be waking up. Like, I got it. Consistency in certain things. Meditations is like, you've got some personal like journal scripts from Marcus Aurelius in there. Like, they're just so open-minded and open-ended for interpretation and implementation. And like, I've shared a couple with you, and what caught your eye, what sentence grabbed you was just further or different from where my mind was expanding, which also means the implementation of that could be different. Like, that's where shit gets really cool. But if you haven't created a foundation for yourself, like, you're not even in a position to do that.
True.
Makes sense?
True.
Like, if you're going to be a chef and make the most fancy, elegant little micro ingredients that splash on a super expensive dessert, but you haven't even like learned how to cook pasta al dente.
Yep.
You probably have no business fucking around with a $2,500 dessert or something weird. Like, I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but like, I feel like people feel productive and feel busy by reading and consuming content. And it's like, dude, fucking listen, pick one and then go get adequate at it. Adequate as in you're doing it. Whether it's a benefit to you or not, I don't know. Just like in sales, just like in real estate. Pick one or two things, go do it like you love it, as in you're adequate with the consistency of applying it, and then read personal data on like, is that working for you and your business or not? If it is, how can you triple down on it? If it's not, how can you fix it, change it, or just get rid of it and then do something else? But I'm so in the work of it all, not the. If we're just reading to read, right? Like, I'll leave you with this and I'll let you talk here. It feels very philosophical, right? There's a lot of theory. There's a lot of like, when it comes to self-help. But at some point it's like, man, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And if there's no action behind any of this, then like, we can sit here and argue about which word got used or what comes before what. And like, to me, it just like,
It's the same shit. It's the same
and it's all
shit.
just bullshit because like we're not. It's like when people analyze a football game. I'll listen to it prior to the game. Hey, we think this, we think that, but I'm going to listen to it for probably 5 minutes. What I'm not going to do is turn on ESPN and listen to the Broncos versus the Cowboys for 48 hours on every single person trying. Like, no. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to watch the game play out. And then if you guys want to analyze it after the game, I'm more interested in what people have to analyze on why things played out the way they did after the game than motherfuckers pretending like they know it all and they know exactly what's going to happen before the game happens. Like, and I'm the same way in life. I'm only interested so much in philosophical stuff prior to execution before I just know like, hey, I'm hitting a threshold of where execution just needs to begin. Otherwise, everything else we're talking about is just, it's empty.
Now, like I 100% get it, because like when you first go down that self-help path, a lot of, because I started there, like you see the self-help section at Borders or whatever, but you don't really dive into it until you're a certain phase of your life, or someone tells you to go read Think and Grow Rich or something. And then once you kind of get exposed to it, man, like I fucking get it, dude. It becomes addicting because all of a sudden it's like, I think this lens is lifted off and you're like, damn, like I am getting control of my shit. Damn, I do need to build better habits. Damn, I do need to be more consistent.
Yeah.
I do need to follow through on some things. And man, I really do manifest the shit that I'm thinking about. Like, I understand when you start going down that path, how excited you can get. And I do think that there are some fundamental books that people do need to read to start off. And we get exposed to it all the time. So I think that we forget that there's other mid-30s, people in their 40s and 50s even, that haven't read some basic self-help books, that don't even know that, like, hey, bitch, stuff that you think about, you attract. But,
like Meditations is not a book to start with.
No.
So, and I'm not saying that because I'm so much smarter than everyone. I'm not. Like, I'm actually pretty elementary in a lot of aspects when I look at myself. You know, like, but I feel like where I'm not elementary is in my grind, my grit, my self-awareness, and how far we've gone down our path of taking action, where when I read that and and it's so open-ended, but because I've got so much history with us taking action, like I can see where it can apply. Versus, man, if I'd have read that book, even in college, if I'd have read that book in college where maybe I was like more savvy with books, I wasn't savvy enough in life to even really grasp that. Like, I really feel like that's a book for just someone seeking wisdom, but has a grasp of like, just the history with putting the work in. I also feel like, as I say that, I also know I'm going to go reflect on that book in 5 years. I think that's a book that will just kind of like travel with me, and what sticks out to me, or what I read more of, like, will be different 5 years from now because of the experience level. But I'm at least at a entry level phase of being able to implement and really expand my brain on some of those thoughts. But no, definitely not the first book.
And I want people, man, to just realize that, hey, if you've hit all those books, like, don't get in that trap of thinking that because, man, I was going through a time where I thought I was being unproductive by not listening to a book, or by not reading a book, when it was like, but then I would go to read the books. I'm like, I fucking have read this 1,000 times, not this book, but the same thing done 1,000 times. And that's when I started, man, intentionally giving myself days during the week where I would listen to music in the car, because I was very anti that for so long.
This is where I don't judge myself.
Like 100%.
Like, I could read for days, but then like if there's a day where I don't feel like reading, I just don't, and then don't judge myself that I'm not fucking reading.
Yeah, and I would. And then what I noticed is like, hey, not only should I not judge myself, but it's actually more productive for me just to enjoy a fucking car ride sometime. And then you get to work, you're in a better mood. I'm already fucking pumped up, like ready to go.
Dude, there's days I don't even turn on music. Yeah, there's days I'm just in the car quiet. Like, I don't need anybody's fucking voice,
and that's okay, man. Like, but man, people, you got to realize, like, hey, once you're at a certain point, now this is where self-awareness comes into hand, right? Because if you're very new to trying to understand yourself and psychology and stuff, there are some really good badass books that you should read. However, you got, like Will said, you got to start taking action on those
And I don't
actually,
know-
like, putting them into your life.
And I don't know if like self-help books is where to start. I feel like anytime I've dove into something, whether it was military, it was sports, it was, business and entrepreneurship, I felt like, hey, if you really want to be good at something, but you're not sure quite where to start, a self-help book might not be telling you where to start. You need to go put yourself around the people that are becoming successful or are successful at what you want to do. If you're in real estate, you should be putting yourself around the right people.
Yep.
You should come talk to Will
Unless,
because if you're a beginner, like I know where we can start you. If you want to be a great mechanic, then you should go apprentice at a spot that like will teach you some great starts and how to and what you should be doing. I feel like it's relationships and proximity.
But some people have such negative self-talk. I know, but they give a fuck. Such negative self-talk, such just bad people or just not good people to be around that people aren't going to fucking want you in their circle. So it's like for some people, maybe not the ones listening to this podcast, maybe there are some people that like, hey, yeah, you got to sometimes turn your own shit around a little bit. Like you said, start getting to the fucking gym.
Okay, so that's a great point because like if somebody comes in and like wants to talk real estate with us and they're just a shit show, and not them as a human, but just the phase that they're in, they're just a shit show. Yeah, I'm not taking you serious.
You got to get your shit together.
True. So yes, getting your diet right, getting hydrated, getting sleep, getting your exercise, going for walks, like
that
really,
stuff even
really,
before the books. So like,
but that before books, that before relationships, because that also helps you develop your relationship with yourself and what you stand for, what you want to be. And if you can't start proving the work to yourself, how the hell are you gonna ever prove it to anybody else? And what I really want to understand is like you don't have anything to prove to anyone else. You have it to prove to yourself. What you have to do and give to everyone else is respect their time. Like for me, I don't got to prove shit to anybody I look up to. And that sounds egotistical. It's not. And I don't have anything to prove to them because they love me for me and they will tell me, you got nothing to prove to me. However, what I do need to do is if I get their time, I need to respect the time that's been given. And by respecting the time that they gave means I need to go apply whatever was taught or whatever was poured into me. I need to go apply that, become better. So then the next time we talk a month later, 6 months later, a year later, I have progressed. It's a show of respect that if I'm soliciting, then I need to go to apply that. And if for some reason, like you don't want to apply and it's not for you, don't take those motherfuckers' time up. So like you don't got to prove shit to them, but you do have to respect what you're getting from people. And like
these books, like you said, making it think like you've got a problem. You know, you look at that book called there's this book called Self-Help Marketing right now. It's going through this big phase where publishers are saying, hey, if you put a curse word on the front page of your book or the cover of your book or in your title, it's going to hit. And the whole unfuck yourself. And now I swear to God, you go to any bookstore, which they're still there. If you go to any bookstore, man, there's literal rows and rows. I did an Instagram on it like a year ago. And I was in there. I'm like, is this a thing now? And it was like, fuck, boss bitch, blah, unfuck, blah, 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 blah. Like every book had a fucking cuss word on it.
Fuck him, fuck her, fuck me.
100%.
Yeah,
and I'm like, man, how many people are like reading this book, Unfuck Yourself, not even thinking they were fucked to begin with? Like sometimes guys, like things just take time. Like you may not be fucked. You may be doing all the exact right things even.
Well, and a lot of times like, you could have the best of intention with reading 100 books, 25 books, whatever it is. You don't realize that like less is more. You know what I mean? Like you can want to tread water so bad that when you get in the water, you're just moving the fuck out of your arms and legs, right? All over the place. And like, hey, that's going to make you drown. Like you're going to drown in your own effort, you know? And like, that's the same thing with like, with reading and just consuming that type of content. Like, hey, you could have the best of intention with the podcast and the YouTube videos and the books with the best of intention, but like you're going to drown in your own inadequate level of ambition there. Like you're, and I don't even know if it's ambition, but like you're just eagerness to do that. You know, like, dude, it's like canine dogs when they would get trained. Like that dog is a huge help, but if that dog is all over the place,
just
it's not
spazzy.
It's not like that dog needs to have composure and be poised and assess and strike where it's needed. Right. Same thing. Like fundamentally be sound. So if you need to start anywhere, it's like learn how to work out, learn how to go for a walk, go do 75 hard. Like Andy Frisella's 75 hard. Like go do something that forces you to learn a certain level of discipline, because I also think people just need to increase their threshold for more and what hard work actually is, right? So go test yourself and go push threshold limits and organize yourself, and just also understand it's not going to come overnight. You will steadily but slowly increase your threshold and your capacity for more as you're able to execute upon such, right? But you get so eager. So it's like, man, like you're an inch deep and a mile wide on a bunch of bullshit.
Yep.
And I promise you, like extreme ownership, the dichotomy of leadership, like people have read those books, and I believe them. I don't think people are fucking lying to me. But you've heard me say this before. Hey man, like people keep telling me like, hey, they've read that book. Like, so have I, motherfucker. I don't think you've read that book, because like, look, dude, I've read that book, and I'm not just good at reading that book because I lived it. Man, like there's some basic things in this book that like you are not following through on, but you told me you've read it, which means like, hey man, did you read it to say you read it? Or did you read it and take notes and try to apply it? And like, so like, is your approach on absorbing content appropriate?
Yeah, you're coming at it like a student. Yeah. And man, like I know we're wrapping up soon, but people have to realize that there's like this funnel when it comes to education and knowledge and stuff like that, to where the Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, like that's top of the funnel, very broad spectrum. Hey, like this is general shit that you should be doing, right? But then as you're progressing through life, that needs to get narrower and narrower and narrower. And then the books that you're reading, I mean, it should be tactical books. Like the shit that we're reading now is like, I mean, man, it might be like optimizing fucking YouTube channels.
Bro,
it might be like
such a great point.
Putting together the perfect, like $100 million offer, Alex Hormozi. It literally is how to put together the perfect package of a product to somebody to sell.
And it's not fun reading. It's practitioner reading.
Yep.
And I'm glad you say that, man, because like, a lot of people are like against college, right? And unless you're a doctor or a lawyer, like don't go to college, right? And like, I'm like, man, I get it, because you're gonna have loans and whatever. However, this entrepreneur space, we see it a lot in real estate, because real estate, you're an entrepreneur. You're 1099 and you're an entrepreneur. You're on your fucking own.
Yeah, well, you
got people around you.
Whether or not you're an entrepreneur or not, different.
Well, different.
Yeah.
Right. But, dude, one thing that, like, gets me, because, like, people over-romanticize, like, being uneducated, because they're just, well, I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, hey, man, deciding not to go to college, cool. Or whatever it may be, or that you didn't, cool. But that does not leave room for, like, you now have this excuse to be uneducated.
Yeah.
Listen, man, if anything, if you can do well in college, regardless of what degree you have, you're going to do a lot of shit in college you don't want to do. And it's building fundamentals. It's learning how to study. It's learning how to test take. It's learning how to, practical application if you got labs and different stuff. If anything, if you never use your degree, but you can establish a culture within yourself of what real hard work is, what discipline to do things you don't want to do is, because you understand. And here's what I want people to replace. I'll leave you with this, and I'll let Eli close this out. Whether you want to do something or not, it's like, no. Start measuring things by their value, not your desire to do them. It's something like when people say like, oh, Will, I hate that. Hate's a strong word. I don't even know if I hate anybody. Hate is such a strong word. So you're using your words extremely loose, but the problem is your brain's believing it, which means you're not going to want to do it. So instead of saying like hate or love, because you could also like love to do something, but I don't know if it's productive or not, but because you love it, you're falling back and doing that, right? Like all the golfers out there that say it's for business, like get fucking real. Bottom line is like, hey, is something valuable? As in, is this pushing my business forward? Is this creating conversion? Like measure the value. Don't measure the desire to do it or not. Just look at it for its value. But if people that have gone to college, dude, or like things like we've done in the military, there's things I didn't want to do, but they were extraordinarily valuable to the foundation of what we were setting ourselves up to do.
Yep.
Right? Like, let's just go super basic. Dude, weapons maintenance in the Marine Corps is a fucking nightmare. And probably to the extreme where like we're cleaning them too much. It's like, hey man, a weapon should not be this dry and this fucking clean. Like, however, like weapons maintenance and a clean weapon, an operating weapon, like you want to get lazy on that? Well, then your weapon doesn't work.
Right.
Problem.
Yep.
Pretty obvious problem, correct? But no day, dude, anytime we did weapons maintenance, it was, whether you're on deployment or the worst is like when you're not on deployment, you're just, you're in garrison, you're in America, and you go train for an entire week in the field, and you smell like shit, and you can't wait to go out that weekend to go hang out and cut loose in San Diego. But before you cut loose for the weekend, weapons get cleaned before you leave.
Yeah.
Which means you might not be done until Friday night at midnight.
Yeah, fuck.
And you're tired because you haven't slept in a week.
Yep.
And you're dirt. Do you think that was ever? Do you think anyone was ever like, man, I cannot wait to go back and clean up? No, man. Extraordinarily valuable as far as like maintaining, because these weapons you have are going to be the same weapons you have issued to you when you go on deployment. Mm-hmm. So it's going to protect you. It's going to protect your life and someone else's life. Never. I might fucking hate weapons maintenance, bro. Like this, like I might have had a phase where I fucking hated it. That's how bad it was. Valuable, extraordinarily valuable. But like, dude, if you don't have if you're okay, you're not going to college, you haven't done military, you haven't done an apprenticeship, like you're the entrepreneur, right? Like you've got chinks in your armor, man. Like you've really got to understand, like you have to create a foundation of learning how to execute the things that are valuable, regardless of liking or not, in order to be successful. And a lot of people just need to fucking start there. Mm-hmm. You don't like to work out. You don't like to eat right, whatever. Like, cool. You're a prisoner, right? Like you can't even overcome those things. You're a prisoner to yourself, overcome by simplistic pleasure.
Man, I just don't think entrepreneur business is the game for a lot of people. When they feel like that, like you don't have to tell any great basketball players to go practice shots. You don't have to tell any great like to do the fundamentals. You don't have to tell like.
Well, a lot of them are just doing it because they're in college and it's part of practice and it's mandatory.
Yeah, but I mean, man, even as a kid growing up, like into it, like you're just into that shit.
Some.
You're studying about it. You're learning it. It's something that like you enjoy going to do.
But go one level further.
Yes.
Shooting hoops and having fun on the playground because you just love basketball and practicing footwork and drills like Kobe Bryant did, that ain't the same fucking thing.
He's the great though. Yeah, he's the great. And it's like
but even in a sport you love, there's things you don't want to. There's things you don't want to do.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%. But you know you need to do them.
Correct.
You want to be the best, and when you want to be the best, it's like, man, there's so much shit that we do, but I'm fucking obsessed with it. You're obsessed with our business. Like I'd say the majority of it I don't want to do, but I'm obsessed with growing the business. I'm obsessed with the game and getting better at it. And it's like, when I go home, dude, it's like, yeah, play with the kid for a little bit, but then, hey, pop up the computer. If there's nothing to do, I'm fucking learning. There's a ton of self-education.
See, and that's a great point because we time block a lot. We give our family times, but then we get back to what we got to do. But the bottom line is, like, does your desire, does your ambition, does the goal of what you want to build, is that bigger than short-term fulfillment of just pleasurabilities? If not, that's where you should start right fucking now is get your head straight.
Yes.
The next thing you should do is turn this fucking podcast off.
That's right.
Get your fucking ass to work.
Here, guys.
We'll chat with you guys next week.
Get out of here.
We're out of here.
Thanks for the patience. We will we'll see you guys here in
a week.
Back in a week or so. That's right.
Happy Friday.
Later, guys.
Out.
For nothing, I can never take a day off.
I like those 30 minutes.